everyone, and welcome to Back Alley Chat. Today is a super special episode because we finally have our first sponsor. I am excited to introduce you all to Quick Intel. Crypto enthusiasts, are you tired of falling victim to scams and feeling uncertain about which projects to trust? Say hello to Quick Intel, your go-to solution for safer crypto trading. Quick Intel is on a mission to make crypto safer by equipping you with advanced AI tools. Detect scams before they happen and make well-informed investment decisions with confidence. No more blindly investing or putting your money's fate into the hands of malicious developers. Quick Intel gives you the control you deserve. Visit quickintel.io to access the hub of AI tools and information you need to effectively do your own research and stay safe in the crypto space. Don't let scammers take advantage of you. Join the Quick Intel revolution today. If only it was that easy with rehab centers. If only we had a scanner for rehab centers to let us know if they were a scam or not, that would make the world a better place as well. Thank you, Quick Intel. Love you guys a lot. And let's get into the episode. Hey, Marco.
Hey, how are you?
All right. So Marco has another recovery podcast called By Any Means Necessary, aka BAM, which I'm so jealous of the name. Okay. I love it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. I actually brought you a hat.
Oh,
so you know. Yeah.
Bam. Bam. So. I was telling him now because I saved in my phone whenever I write, because I say boom and bam like a lot to people.
Okay, yeah.
It's like one of my things. Mm-hmm. And now whenever I say it, it just rewrites it to this.
That's the whole mission.
Caps.
That was the whole mission. I wanted
it.
to corrupt everybody's phones.
Brilliant. Let me put this hat on. I love it.
Okay.
Let's see here. I got a small head, but big ears. So, Marco, tell us a little about where are you from? Are you from Florida?
No, actually, I was born in Las Vegas. I was born and raised in Las Vegas. Yeah.
Vegas, baby.
Sin City.
That must have been crazy.
Yeah, it was. It's not really, it's very surreal to live there. Obviously.
What is it like?
It's very transient. Like nobody, like when I tell people that I'm from Vegas, they're like, oh, you're the first person that I ever met that was actually born and raised in Vegas.
Really?
There's really back then there's really no culture there, no museums. This is in the early '80s and stuff like that. So,
right.
I was born and raised in Las Vegas, and basically my parents got divorced when I was 5. My dad moved to San Francisco. We all moved to San Francisco, and then I moved back to Las Vegas. And I live with my mother. My dad stayed in San Francisco.
Okay. What nationality are you?
So I'm Puerto Rican, Spanish, and Sicilian and Italian.
Okay. I couldn't tell. Is he Italian or is he Hispanic? Okay, you're both.
Yeah, I'm a lot. So, yeah, most definitely.
A mutt, as you say.
Sure.
That's what I am, at least.
Okay.
All right. So you went to San Francisco and you personally moved back to Vegas?
With my mom.
With your mom?
Yeah,
okay.
So my parents split up, and what happened was that I basically engulfed myself in baseball.
Okay, you were a baseball player.
I was a baseball player for 19 years, but during this time when my parents got divorced, I didn't have my dad. I would go visit my dad in San Francisco, and that's when I used to get he used to beat me.
Oh wow!
So that's what would happen. So it happened for 4 summers in a row. And getting into recovery, I actually learned about the word trauma.
Right.
I'm kind of going forward a little bit. But
How old were you when when this was going on?
12 to 16.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't tell anybody.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was my fault, and that you have that whole relationship with your father like boys do, I want to be like him, I want to mimic him, but I didn't tell anybody until before I went to rehab. I told my wife and I told my mother. Wow. I came out, and then I have an addiction therapist after I got out of rehab. I told him about that, and then he opened the whole book about the word trauma to me. I had no idea what that was.
So how old were you when you finally went to treatment? Because you just said you're married already.
Yeah, so what happened was that, to be honest with you, I didn't really partake in any drugs or anything like that because I played baseball. So, some people say, well, that was your vice, that was your thing.
It's healthy.
Yeah,
sounds okay to me.
But
shit.
When I quit baseball, a week after I quit baseball, that's when I was introduced to speed.
It only took a week after not doing baseball anymore. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like this competitive.
Speed. Yeah. From nothing to speed.
From nothing to speed, just like
0
that.
to 100.
Yeah, and I was hooked.
I bet. And you were in Vegas at the time.
I was in Vegas.
Okay, I got to ask you, have you ever been into the underground tunnels in Vegas?
Yes.
What? What is that like over there? I want to go check it out so bad. I was in Vegas about a year ago. I think you know, so I do homeless outreach. So I spend all my day in encampments, period.
Right.
And whenever I go to a new city, I always love to check out what's the homeless doing here, because it's just my thing now. So I've always thought the tunnel thing was so interesting. Tell us what it's like.
So like a lot of my friends, so I'm heavily like, I was a old school hip hop DJ.
Okay,
So
I can
like,
see it.
So a lot of my friends were like MCs, they were graffiti artists and stuff like that. So we used to go down in the tunnels and used to tag and stuff like that. And then we would meet these people, families that were living in there. And this was like, you know, I'm going to be 50 in November. So this is back 20 some years ago when it wasn't that exposed, right? Like it wasn't a huge deal, right? And there wasn't all these huge, there was a lot of casinos, but it wasn't what it is like now, right?
Right.
So
is that what they call Old Vegas?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Old Vegas, most definitely. So, we were, you know, we were bringing, food, we were bringing clothes. It was surreal.
Wow. How do you get down there?
Well, basically it's like behind hotels. It was like you would have like behind these hotels like Circus and the Dunes and all that stuff, like the Old Vegas you're saying. Then you have like this really bad housing, and behind the housing that's where you can kind of go into these tunnels and stuff like that. Yeah.
And when were they built? Do you know? I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
So you know, it's not a bad idea because, I mean, it keeps you shielded from the elements. Does it smell bad down there?
It doesn't, because what happened is Vegas is, you know, it's surrounded by mountains. It's a valley.
Right.
So when it rains, it floods all the time. So they basically built these tunnels because of the flooding problem. Right. So once we started going down there and like, you know, seeing like my friends were tagging and stuff like that, we started meeting these people. Wow. And they're amazing. And like there's families, there's like 6-year-old, 3 years old. They were dealers in the casinos.
Wow.
They lost their job. They got kicked out. You know, some of them, you know, were addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know.
And were you doing speed at this time?
Was I doing speed? Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did that go on for? Of you using?
I used. It went from speed to cocaine. I used for 19 years.
Oh wow, that's a long using career.
I used for 19 years. Yeah.
That's a long career.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because like, it was kind of almost like the way I look at it now. It was like predisposed, right? Because my dad died in active addiction. His dad died an addict. My half sister overdosed and died. Right. Wow. So for me, it's like there's a lot of things. Obviously, it was a choice, right? Plus being a chef and being in the culinary industry, there's two cultures. There's the culture where you don't do any drugs,
right?
You just work your job, and there's the culture where it's like after your shift in the kitchen, they give you a shift drink,
right? Oh yeah. When I've worked in kitchens, everyone's getting schwizzed. Yeah. You know, everyone's having a drink or whatever it is. So, but it's interesting because, like you said, yes. Because everyone always has this argument, right? Is it a choice or blah, blah, blah for addiction? And it's like, well, it all starts with the choice. We all make a choice to drink a beer for the first time or to smoke weed or to experiment with drugs.
Right.
I mean, that's something that almost every young person goes through, but some of us are going to have a different reaction than others, right? For some of us, it's just going to set us off on a path. And yes, we made the same choice that you, normal person working in your office, made, but it led us down a much different road. And it sounds like you had the perfect genetics for that to happen.
I did have the perfect genetics. I remember, so from Vegas, I moved to New York. Right?
Oh, okay. What part?
I actually lived in Flushing, Queens, and I also lived in Brooklyn. And we had a restaurant. My wife and I also had a restaurant in Brooklyn. And I remember one night, this was like in year 7 of my active addiction. I remember like in the bathroom of our restaurant, like doing cocaine, and I looked in the mirror and I just said to him, I really remember this night. And I go, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life. It was just something to where it was like normalized.
Right.
I normalized me doing that. Like, it was just like, I just didn't know I had a problem really.
And what did your wife think? So you met her when you were using?
I met her, so we're 7 years apart. So I met her when she was 19. When I moved to New York, I was 26, and I was already in active addiction, but it wasn't like
that bad.
The tail
obviously.
end, right? Yeah,
she probably would have talked to you.
Well, so the fact of the matter is that she's from a Chinese Jamaican family to where
oh wow,
none of that stuff. Nobody drank. There was no drugs or anything like that. So she just thought like I was kind of erratic a little bit. I had sleeping issues or something like that, right? But yeah, I mean, it's very well known that she didn't know for like 13 years that I was using cocaine.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did she find out?
What happened was at the end, so from New York, we moved to Jupiter in Florida, right?
Beautiful.
And I was the head corporate chef of a catering company in Miami, and we lived in Jupiter.
That's a
so
hike.
I was driving daily, right? Mm-hmm. And I was up for days at the tail end. So at the tail end, the last 6 months, I was mixing speed with cocaine with this product called ice that this woman in Arizona was shipping to me in the human resources department of the corporate catering.
Wow.
Building. Yeah. So basically what happened was one day I came back home to Jupiter and I slept for like 2 days. And then she came in and she's like, all right, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
The kids are like bugging out, like, and I looked at her and I was like, I'm addicted to cocaine. And I remember that she looked at me and she just walked out. She walked out the room. So basically, like, I didn't even know I was detoxing myself. The next day she came back in and she goes, you're going to rehab. So I slept for another like 3 days. So I basically like detoxed myself prior to going into rehab. She drove me to rehab.
What, did you have insurance from the job, or how were you able to go to treatment?
No. So my mother and my stepfather paid for it.
Oh, wow. Blessed.
Yeah, blessed. Wow. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
And God willing, that was my first and only rehab so far.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And you went here locally in Florida?
Yeah.
Cool. You had a good experience there?
It was amazing. I actually had like an intervention in rehab.
While you're in treatment? What were they interviewing? No more baseball, Marco. Get away from the TV. Put the wiffle ball bat down. What was the intervention about?
So there's a guy, and I'm allowed to say this. His name is Vance Johnson. Vance Johnson was one of the three amigos. He was one of the best NFL wide receivers in the game.
I knew it had something to do with sports.
Yeah. And what happened was that he ended up under a bridge. He was in active addiction and he was recovery. So he was working with this rehab. And when I went into rehab, somebody found out, like, I was kind of like an older cat in the rehab compared to like all the other guys.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So they found out like I had like kids and stuff like that. And they found out like my son was a really great tennis player. So they have all these like workout facility. They have this workout facility outside in the rehab. So like all the people that were like addicted to speed and coke and stuff, like, we're all working out like crazy, right? So we're working out, and then all of a sudden I see this guy, this like tall built African American man, and I was like, he's definitely not, he's not a client of this. Like, who is this guy? And it was like, and he came closer, and I recognized him because I'm a huge sports fan. It was Vance Johnson, but I didn't know his story.
Right.
I didn't even know about it was in recovery or anything like that. So he said, hey, Marco, can I talk to you for a second? And I was like, the fuck do you know my name? And he's like, no, come on. And he was like, he had this like aura about him, like this like spirituality. And like, I call this like, this is hard conversation. I call it like my God moment because he did some research. And basically what happened was the intake guy had my phone. And I asked him to see my phone before they took my phone, before they admitted me into the rehab. And I had a picture of my family and the kids and my wife and stuff like that. And I just wanted to look at it. And so they told Vance, like, hey, here's a guy that we think that, he's got, like, he might have a shot. Right. So Vance is like, look, man, like, I just want to talk to you. Come sit down. We went and sat down. He asked me what my wife's phone number was. he called my wife, put her on speaker, and he's like, "Hey, this is Vance Johnson." And Debbie's like, "Who? Like, who the hell?" He's like, "I'm with Marco." And she starts like breaking down, right? And he's like, "I just want to tell you, like, I got him. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna work through this." Hangs up the phone, and like he just looked at me. And he's like, "Do you believe in God?" And I go, "Fuck, man, look where I'm at right now. Like, I have no idea."
Yeah.
I've used for 19 years.
Right.
Straight. The last 6 years was a 6-year run. The last 6 months was insane mixing, like what I was mixing. Like I was fried. I was done. I was spent. And he's like, "You know what you're doing is like, you have a kingdom. You have this queen and you have these seeds. And the disease of addiction is the devil, and it's coming and it's killing, it's slaughtering your whole kingdom. And you don't even see it."
Wow.
Because you don't even see it. And it was like a really like sunny day. It was like, I'm telling you, Allie, this is a fucking God moment, man. And he just like grabbed my arm and he's like, "You got to do it for yourself, but you got to do it for them, man. You have to like break this cycle."
Yeah.
And that was it.
Wow.
Like that like I read, like, of course, like I call myself right this, like a junkie. Emerson did a H&I, and that was the first time I met Emerson, and he told his story that he's a chef and he's in recovery, and after that meeting, he gave me his NA book. I read that book 3 times in my 30 days, right? Wow. I was like, "Look, man, I have to change this." And that's why I feel like for me, for my recovery, you know, whether it's whatever 12-step program, for me, it's about spirituality. It's about really like, it's just not like going to meetings. You know what I'm saying? It's like leaning on people. It's like opening up. It's communication. It's really like, it's about trauma. I've had an addiction therapist, day 45 in my recovery till this day.
Wow.
He's been on my podcast
and
3
it's been
times.
over 6 years, right?
7 years.
7 years. Wow. That you're
7
in recovery
years.
now.
Yeah.
That's you're coming to the 7-year hump.
Yeah.
Got to stay focused.
No, yeah.
This is the test.
Yeah, diligently. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
The H&I, I love that story because for me, you know, I went to the Drug Abuse Foundation, which everyone knows DAF is a state-ran facility. And back when I went there many years ago, it was not even as good as it is today, okay? Right. But the one thing that saved my life when I was in there was the H&I meetings because those people came in, I had no idea about recovery, didn't have a clue as to what, like, anything. And those people came in and they would tell these stories, and I would see people who were saying that they lived this life that I lived and, you know, felt the things that I felt, but they didn't look like that anymore. And they looked happy and they were doing well. And I thought, wow, if all these people can come in here every week and tell me that they did the same thing, they're all telling me the same thing. They're all like, "I went to a meeting, I got a sponsor, I worked my steps, I got a commitment." Like, I got to try it. Right. You know, like it keeps working for every single person that walks in here. Now, of course, they're all AA and a 12-step meeting, so that's always going to be the story. But, you know, for me, it was really eye-opening because, you know, the treatment that we were receiving was all right, you know, but they weren't really teaching us anything like that. Right. And so I thought that was really cool. So your wife sticks with you. Do you go right back home after leaving treatment, or did you go to sober living? Because I know that's a hard thing for a lot of people that are in relationships. Like when they're done, do I go home to my family or do I take more time in like a halfway house, which also feels weird when you're older because you have a house, right? And you're just not living there. So what did you do?
So I went straight back to the crime scene. I went home.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
And it's kind of ironic because Debbie, my wife, like she says to this day, "You should have went to a fucking sober living home." Like,
really? She was like, "Don't come home, please."
What happened was like it was just so, you know, there was so much embarrassment, there was so much resentment, there was so much guilt.
How old were your kids at this time?
When I came home, so they were 14 and 9. Okay.
So a 14-year-old definitely old enough
Camille
to understand.
Yeah, she understood everything. Quinn, not so much, but when I gave them the platform to come on my podcast, you know, he really opened up about resentment and things like that. So,
how did that feel?
It was interesting because to hear their side of it, I was taken back, but like kids are really resilient, right? And like all they want is for us to be a unit.
Right.
And they're very forgiving, right? But then, and like, there's things that pop up. Like if I don't answer a text, like,
right.
where the fuck
like
is dad?
PTSD.
Dad, yeah, where's dad? It's like a trigger or something. But no, it was, we've gotten a lot of responses from people that are going through the same things and like, oh, this has really helped them. And that's all, honestly, like,
How has
Allie,
that
like,
felt? What brought you to starting your podcast to begin with, I guess? So, because now you have 7 years, you went back home after treatment. You must have gotten very involved in the recovery community near your home in Jupiter, or
yeah. So, to be quite honest with you, I really never talked about this part on my podcast, but I basically manipulated my psychiatrist before going into rehab and after getting out of rehab because I was scared that I was not taking anything, and it didn't matter to me. Seroquel, lithium, like I thought I just needed something, right? So the first 4 years of my recovery was a shit show.
Really?
Yeah, I was at one point I was on 6 different medications. Now, I just want to say something. I want to put this out there. For me, this is my story. It didn't work. Okay? It didn't work. For other people that need things like that, God with you. God be with you. If that's what you need. For me, I was manipulating the situation.
Because you didn't need it.
I didn't need
there's
it.
a lot of people who suffer major depressive disorder and other things like that, and they definitely need meds. But when I first got sober, the way they taught 12 steps to me, I thought you shouldn't be on anything.
Right.
So it's hard to learn that balance when you get some time.
Yeah.
But for you didn't really need it. You just felt like you needed something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
because I was so for 19 years.
Right. It's a long time. And I think it's so important to talk about that first 4 years because I was a terror. For years, in recovery. I didn't just get sober and stop being a shitty person.
No.
I just still had a lot of character defects that I was learning about.
Right.
Because I was having that fog removed to even learn that I was doing these things to people. So what happened, what shifted in your recovery during those 4 years? How did you, how
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll answer the question about how I got the podcast. So I got clean again after I stopped taking the meds.
What meds were you on?
I was on everything.
Like what?
I was on lithium. I was on Seroquel. I was on Abilify.
Yeah.
It was just oh, this is not working. We're going to try you with this. This is not working. Oh, we need more. You need 10 milligrams. You need this, right? Wow. It was insane. So I came home one day and I told my wife, I said, look, I'm done. I threw everything out. She's like, no, you're supposed to wean off this shit.
Right.
Junkie. I'm like, fuck it. And I was like, no, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't have a crutch.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm dirty in recovery. For me.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
For you. You didn't feel comfortable with it. Right. Yeah.
Right?
No, for sure.
That changed my whole fucking recovery. I just saw things different. I felt things. I heard things. I could look at you and I wasn't a shell of a person or a mummy or
Well, those are a lot of meds. Those kind of meds are the ones that really slow you down.
Sure.
That's what you were taking. You were taking ones that kind of numb those feelings, which feels so great in early recovery. They're a lot to handle. For instance, I'll never forget the first time I laughed really hard. Because it had been a long time for me, But I tell a story all the time. My best friend Kelly, she passed away. We were in, this closet basically, and it was her on the bottom bunk, me on the top. I was 18. I was like, I want the top bunk. Very excited, too excited. Bad choice. Anyway, and there's this girl named Red. This girl still makes me laugh. This girl Red comes in from the doctor. She wasn't feeling good. She goes to dive on her bed. She smashes her head through the wall. Marco, was dying laughing. I couldn't stop. I couldn't hold it together. And that was the first time that I had a belly laugh in recovery, you know, because I was able to. So it probably felt amazing for you to, be off all of that stuff and to just start experiencing life.
I mean, we were talking before before we started the episode, and I told you I'm a private chef, right? So what really kicked off, and I haven't even shared this on my podcast, what kicked off me really stopping the meds is that I got fired in recovery from my client, who I was a private chef for, because they thought I was on drugs.
Wow.
And all the medication that I was taking basically dwindled my work production, my mood, my weight gain, the quality of the food and stuff like that. And one day the gentleman said, he's like, it was a Friday. I remember he goes, Marco, I want to talk to you. Like, you need help, bro. We're going to let you go. And I was like, what do you mean I need help? Like,
yeah. What do you mean? I'm in recovery.
You're doing drugs. And I was like, I'm fucking in recovery, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like that started that whole thing. Once I got off of everything, last summer I was in Longport, New Jersey, with another client at his house, and I was looking at the ocean, and I was going to a lot of meetings out there. And I said, I want to help more in a different way. Like I want to get in tune with people. Like I want to like put my message out there, put my story out there, put everything out there, put my family side, put my wife. My wife was the first guest on By All Means Necessary, and she's the #1 downloaded episode on all platforms.
And I imagine because families of, loved ones of addicts, they need support too.
Right.
And they don't often always get the platform that maybe people in recovery, we get to tell our stories all the time, but their stories are just as important. And I could just say from personal experience, my last relationship, and I'll talk about it all the time because it was traumatizing. My ex was in long-term recovery, relapsed after a sports accident. He got to get surgeries, and it was a total nightmare. And it was 100% worse than my personal active addiction, how it made me feel and what it did to me.
Wow.
It was just so terrible. And so after that, I really learned what the families go through and what they deal with, because it's just like every day you have a massive pit in your stomach. Every day you're wondering, are they dead when they don't answer the text, know?
Yeah.
And it's just a terrible feeling to just have that kind of trauma response constantly. So I think that's awesome that you allow them to speak out and have those things for people to listen to.
Because like they all three of them say, my wife and our children, they're like, Dad, we're in recovery too.
Mm-hmm. Right. 100%.
My wife has seen a therapist. Once I started, when it was in rehab, she started seeing the therapist.
Wow. Good for her.
Because she's like, I like all these things, right?
Can't do it on your own.
No.
Can't do it on your own. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And I think that's amazing that she sought help. I think more people, everyone could use it, right? Yeah. But especially in a situation like that. So you get let go from that position, and you basically went home and you told your wife, like, hey, I got to stop doing this. And then you wanted to do something to reach more people, and you started By Any Means Necessary.
Yeah, By All Means Necessary.
By All Means Necessary. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Bam. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Good.
So how's that been like? How many episodes do you have out now? Like, how's the journey been? How did you find Pod Populi? Like, what was that like?
Okay. So, basically, my client, I'm their private chef, and they obviously know I'm in recovery. They have 5 homes. Pretty much all.
Wow, what do they do for work?
Yeah, all over the East Coast, right?
What do they do?
I can't say.
You can't tell us what they do?
No, they're retired.
Yeah. Oh,
not
boomers.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. They've taken all of our money.
Non-cartel.
Non-cartel. Yeah. Okay, good. That's positive.
So, and like where some of these meetings aren't the nicest places. So I'm like rocking a Rover right, to these meetings, and I'm like, "Are you sure I can go?" And they're like, "Yeah." So one day when I had this, this thought, I was looking out at the ocean. I came back in, and I came back inside, and the wife was there, and I said, I think I need to start, a podcast about this, about my story and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, go find out, So I came here, found out. I said, what are the options? They gave me a piece of paper. I brought it back to her. She cut a check for a year's worth of episodes.
Wow.
We have somebody that donates for all the merchandise.
Wow.
We're starting we just put in the paperwork for non-for-profit.
Mm-hmm. I saw you were going to work with Manny.
Yeah.
For Real Recovery. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
He does some cool stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He had a little problem with me and my show came out, but we Get some coffee and squash that
Oh,
shit
yeah?
real quick. Yeah. Anyone got a problem, hit me up. Don't be quiet. Say it to my face. But no, Manny's cool. He does a lot of good stuff. That's for sure. And you've never worked in the treatment industry. So, your life is good. Because once you work in it, you'll not want to do stuff like this anymore. It will traumatize you. Yes. Yeah. I thought. So how many, you're on 20?
Oh, so
how
we're
many
on,
episodes?
sorry, yeah. We're on 22. I have 10 still needing to be released. It's just something where it's what happened was that, I'm looking for somebody to basically run all of our social media and stuff because we're getting so many messages. We've assisted, let me refrain that. We've assisted in getting 9 people into rehab through the podcast.
Nice.
We have multiple messages on YouTube, email, TikTok, Instagram, like from people that are like, hey, I watched your wife's episode, the kids' episode, your episode. I'm a chef, dude. Like, there's a guy on TikTok that is battling, the disease, and he's a really high profile chef. And he just hits me up all the time. And I'm like, look, he's like, what do I have to do? And I said, you have to surrender.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm like, bro, like, what do you want me to tell you? Mm-hmm. He's like, what did you do? Like, what was the I'm like, there's no fucking tricks, man. This isn't a magic show.
Yeah, it's work.
You surrendered, and it's work.
Yeah, no, I know. There's no magic anything. My whole day, I'm trying to help people find resources, because my big thing and why I left treatment was I was so sick of only being able to help certain people, right? People with money or health insurance, which is great, right? Like, yes, but they have help. They can go wherever they want. Like, it's in my opinion, it's that simple. They don't need me there. Right. I don't feel needed. But for those that don't have anything, they do need to know where to go. But when I speak with their families, they go, well, how do we know this is going to work? You don't. All of this is on your loved one. They are responsible. They are the person that needs to make every single choice, learn the tools, learn how to use them, right? Practice all of that stuff and continue to practice it basically forever. Yeah. Because you need to change the way you think in order to be successful at this. Right. You need to let go of past ideas that you're holding on to, like me. When I first got sober, I refused to hug people. I only dapped. I was very like that. I don't know why, but I just was not, don't touch me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't fucking know you. Like, I was very angry and just, I had this like hard shell, that like they literally had to break. Same. And I remember saying one day, I was like, you guys are making me so soft. Like, I don't like it. I care about people and I'm hugging people and like, it just feels, I don't feel so gangster, I'm like, I feel like I'm losing the gangster flair a little bit here, but you just gotta keep going with it. And now I feel like we're the most gangster because we can love people unconditionally, right? We can see people do terrible things to us, but understand that they're hurting, and that makes us bigger, in my opinion. Of
course, yeah.
So I think that's been a really cool transformation, if you will.
Oh yeah, and I don't think we've never. I just want to say this that I don't think I've said it to you, but the whole Vice thing was amazing that you were on.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No, my wife and I watched it, and it was really like I watched it twice.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, for real. Like,
that was such a special thing.
That
I got to be a part of.
That was like a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so weird when it came out why some people were like upset about it. I like really couldn't, especially with Frankie, and this is not something I've talked about a lot, but when the show first came out, everyone was so upset that Frankie was on there. And they like maliciously attacked his website, like messed up all of his merch stuff. They were trying to get us arrested by like federal prosecutors. Wow. And it was just a lot. And so, we were nervous, obviously, for the show to come out because before it came out, we're dealing with all this stuff, and especially Frankie. Yeah.
Wow.
Like when they knew it was coming and commercials were coming out and stuff for it. And it was just, it was so sad to see the recovery. Some people in the community react that way. I think mainly out of jealousy.
Yeah, of course.
And but when the show actually came out, we have gotten so much love from so many people. And that's when I learned, like, wow, so many people recover in so many different ways. Like, success looks so different to so many people.
Yeah.
I didn't know because I've always done 12 steps, you know? So, but it really exposed that. And so many people loved Frankie and, like, seeing him struggle because that's the reality of addiction a lot of the time. You know, you're not going to go, I went to one treatment center too, but at this table, we're miracles, you know, and this is not common. And what Frankie went through is the most common, trying to get on subs, relapsing, dealing with, you know, difficult family dynamics and all that stuff. So I appreciate it. I'm glad that you watched it. Thank you.
No, seriously. Like that, it was amazing. And I think, like, there's hopefully, like, you'll get into doing more stuff like that because, like, you're really a natural, like, it just being, like, just saying how it is. Like, it was just like, it was like, you weren't like, it wasn't like weird or anything like that. Like, you just fucking said how it is, how you felt. And, like, you weren't even, it wasn't like there was like a camera in front of you. Yeah. It was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. And our crew, you know, they made us feel so comfortable, but that is my blessing and my curse is my mouth. So every time I film a podcast, I go, will this be the time I get arrested or canceled or fired from my job for talking smack?
Yeah.
I just can't help myself. Thank God my supervisor knows me well. She knows that I just like to talk smack. I don't mean it half the time.
Yeah, of course. No.
So what is life like for you today? And what are you planning for the future before we wrap up? And do you have any, like, advice that you would give somebody in a similar situation to where you were?
What life for me today is, you know, we went from surviving to living to thriving. Wow. And that has nothing to do with money. It's like the unit, the four of us, my wife and my two children.
And your two kids are thriving too.
Yeah. The four of us. It's, you know, it hurts to go to meetings and, I'm blessed because everyone told her to leave me. Wow. People were, you know, sending her money. We'll get the moving trucks.
What?
We'll get airplane tickets. And she goes, like, to be honest with you, she's like, no, it's deeper, man. There's something. This is not him. There's something, and she didn't really understand it, right? She's like, he's battling something. Right. There's something that he's battling, and he
You're
needs
in a
help.
war.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, with yourself.
So when I go to meetings and I hear, like, you know, guys share that they lost their kids and they don't have custody, and she left them, and this and that. Like it's more than grateful for me. You know, I'm still a chef. I still have clients that I'm working for, and right off the rip, I let them know I'm in recovery. Okay. They know about the podcast. I'm an open book. You know, I'm helping. So there's some clients that I'm actually helping. They're battling with some type, like, not just drugs, but like with other things, other vices. You know, people pick up food, gambling, this, that, right?
Everything.
And we're just getting in, you know, we're just doing that.
I have a question.
You know?
Has being so open about your recovery negatively affected you at all? And so I know you're not in the dating world, but so I just have a quick story. So long story short, one of my sponsees, she's single, beautiful girl, has a beau, and love a nice guy. Anyway, so she's been trying to find a guy. Long story short, I had a guy, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm just looking for a great Italian girl. I go, well, I know a girl, right? My girl. So I connect them, they're talking, they're about to go out to dinner, and she was like, hey, he wants to take me to a wine bar, like, should I tell him, like, I don't drink or whatever? And I was like, yeah, who cares? Like, just tell him you don't drink. And they had been talking for days, you know, like all day, having great conversation. She was like, yeah, like, I'll go. Like, I don't mind being there at all. She's in very long-term recovery. But she was like, I just don't drink. Ghosted her.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Yeah. And so, like, have you experienced anything like that? Like, cause you work with normies, you know? So have any of them reacted strange, or have you lost any opportunities because of it?
No.
I
mean, it's actually gotten better. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Being transparent.
Being transparent. And I'm in a position where I get to, you know, be able to choose my clients.
Right. Wow.
And
that's
then
great.
Like in terms of like friendships, you know, I'm very selective. Like, you know, like it's the four of us, and I might have like a couple, and that's it. You know, I'm working on the trust, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I'm very fortunate. I haven't faced that yet.
That's great.
No, not at all.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I haven't personally either, but I went many years not telling anybody. You know, I always kept my anonymity for many years.
So I did, you know, to be honest with you, like the first 3 years, I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed about it and stuff like that. And my wife was like, you know, this has got to change. This is who you are.
Well, and especially when you have to go and like basically live with clients and you're trying to go to meetings and stuff like that. Like at some point you got to, where are you going? They might think you're going to some strip club, you know, like, no, I'm going to a meeting.
And it's interesting because I signed NDAs, but I've had famous baseball players that were my clients in early recovery. And like they'll see, like they'll like on TikTok, you'll see like they'll like,
That's funny,
and I'm like, hey, you know, that's it. What's
right?
up? You know?
What's up?
You know?
Now, last question before we go: do you ever, or would you ever consider doing cook talk? You know, putting some recipes on there. You got any recipes on there?
No, yeah.
Most
Most definitely.
I'll follow. I need it. All right. We need it.
We'll do
something low sugar. Boyfriend's type 1.
Okay, yeah.
So, you know, we need some good recipes.
No,
What's
I'm down.
up, Marco?
Totally.
Just something simple.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
Nothing like that a private chef can make. But.
No. I eat simple. Like, I mean, I don't eat like my clients eat, to be honest with you.
Do they eat fancy? Like, what do rich people like to eat?
Yeah, some are crazy, but like a lot of them, they just care about the product. Like they just want the best
like
fish.
high quality food.
Yeah, that's it. Like the best ingredients.
Yeah.
Go to the captain from the boat and pick up the fucking tuna. Like,
you know what?
Like that.
Yeah, I mess with that. I'd do that too if I could.
Yeah, you know, me too, right?
Yeah, it's good to eat good food.
But no, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I love to share. I love to share people, and like that's what we're really working on right now too. Is, you know, when people are getting out of recovery, life skills, showing them like, hey, this is like clean eating.
Yes.
This is meal prep. You have a budget.
Brilliant.
This is how you do it. You know,
especially like in halfway living, and those kids are usually trying to get back to the gym, and you know, because it obviously also makes you feel good and get you through like that, long-term withdrawal haze that sometimes we get mentally, right? So working out is great, and eating clean.
Right.
Only like makes you feel so much better.
Totally.
Like I was just going on vacation and I told my boyfriend before we left, I was like, well, I want to just eat good all week because I want to feel good when I'm there, you know, and I know that what I put in my body affects the way I feel. Right. Did you? I love sugar, but you know, that's my problem. But
yeah, me too.
I love it so much. And then he got diabetes and we were like, oh my God, we can't have any sugar. But we need some sugar in the house because he could die if we don't have. Very confusing. We're figuring it out. We're getting there.
Yeah.
So Marco, where can people find you if they want to follow your podcast, Instagram?
Yeah, the Instagram is BAMN Real Recovery Talk. The YouTube channel is By All Means Necessary Real Recovery Talk. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify. Just, you know, message me if you have any questions or if you need any suggestions or anything like that. Yeah, and I really appreciate it. And I just want to say I'm very grateful that you asked me to come on. It was amazing. I really appreciate
this
it.
was so fun. Thank you for coming. And later today, we're actually filming on Marco's channel. So if you guys want to check that out, hopefully it comes out before the 10 other episodes he has to put out. But definitely go check out his channel. He has a lot of amazing, from what I see, guests that come on and tell their stories. And it's kind of like, I feel like there's some great stories on there. The guy who rolled that girl up in a freaking carpet and threw her in the dumpster, but she wasn't dead. Plot twist. But so go check it out. It's really awesome. And thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Quick Intel, again for sponsoring this episode. I love you guys so much. Don't get scammed. Use Quick Intel. Go check them out, quickintel.io. And I will see you all next week. Bye.